Right now, in kitchens across the country, seniors are reaching for snacks they believe are perfectly harmless, maybe even healthy. But what they don't know is that 6 common snacks sitting in pantries and refrigerators at this very moment are actively destroying their brain cells with every bite. And the worst part, these aren't junk foods. These are the exact snacks doctors and nutritionists have recommended for decades. Within the next few minutes, the science behind this cognitive catastrophe will be revealed, along with the specific foods that must be eliminated immediately if brain function matters at all. Before going further, understand this is educational content based on current research, not personalized medical advice. Anyone experiencing sudden memory changes, confusion, difficulty finding words, or personality shifts needs immediate medical evaluation. These could signal stroke, tumor, infection, or other emergencies requiring urgent intervention. Never stop prescribed medications without physician guidance. Now here's what the research actually shows. The shocking reality is that after age 65, the brain enters a uniquely vulnerable metabolic state. Glucose regulation mechanisms that worked flawlessly for decades begin failing. Inflammatory responses that once protected neural tissue start attacking it instead. Blood-brain barrier integrity, which kept toxins out of cerebral tissue for a lifetime, develops microscopic leaks that allow damaging compounds direct access to neurons. This creates a perfect metabolic storm where foods that were once neutral or even beneficial become neurotoxic. And the medical establishment? They're still recommending eating patterns designed for younger metabolisms, completely ignoring the catastrophic mismatch happening in aging brains. Let's get specific about what's actually happening at the cellular level, because understanding the mechanism makes the solution obvious. In brains under 65, astrocytes, the support cells surrounding neurons, efficiently clear excess glucose and inflammatory byproducts. After 65, astrocyte function declines by approximately 40%. Simultaneously, microglial cells, the brain's immune system, shift from protective to hyperactive inflammatory states. Combine this with reduced antioxidant enzyme production, specifically superoxide dismutase and glutathione peroxidase declining 30 to 50%, and you have neural tissue sitting in an inflammatory oxidative environment with diminished protective mechanisms. Every snack that spikes blood sugar or triggers inflammation accelerates this degenerative cascade. Yet, conventional medicine continues recommending the same snacks to everyone, regardless of age. Here's what makes this particularly insidious. Memory loss doesn't announce itself. There's no pain signal, no visible symptom. By the time families notice dad repeating stories or mom forgetting appointments, hundreds of billions of synaptic connections have already been lost. The damage is cumulative, silent, and largely irreversible, which means the time to act isn't when symptoms appear. It's right now, today, before another neurotoxic snack crosses those lips. If this information is proving valuable, if the realization is dawning that mainstream nutritional advice might be catastrophically wrong for aging brains, hit that subscribe button. This channel exists because institutional medicine won't have these conversations. They won't tell patients that their recommended snacks are destroying cognitive function because admitting that would require acknowledging they've been wrong for decades. Every video on this channel brings research they'd prefer stayed buried. Subscribe to make sure this information keeps reaching the people who desperately need it. Now, let's expose the 6 snacks actively destroying memory after 65. Snack number 1, whole grain crackers. Yes, the same whole grain crackers recommended by every dietitian, promoted as heart healthy, positioned as the responsible alternative to chips. Here's what actually happens when a 65-plus brain encounters these crackers. Despite the whole grain label, these products deliver a massive glycemic load. Most whole grain crackers spike blood glucose within 15 to 20 minutes to levels exceeding 100 160 milligrams per deciliter, even in non-diabetics. In aging brains, this glucose surge triggers acute hippocampal inflammation. The hippocampus, located in the medial temporal lobe and responsible for converting short-term memories into long-term storage, contains the highest concentration of insulin receptors in the entire brain. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, these receptors become resistant, exactly like type 2 diabetes, but localized to memory centers. Research published in Neurology followed 4,000 participants over 20 years and found that higher glycemic variability, those blood sugar spikes and crashes, correlated with 13% faster hippocampal atrophy. 13%. That's losing more than a decade of cognitive reserve to crackers marketed as healthy. But there's a second mechanism making this worse. Whole grain crackers contain acrylamide, a neurotoxic compound formed when starchy foods are heated above 120 degrees Celsius. The browning on those crackers? That's acrylamide formation. In aging brains with compromised blood-brain barriers, acrylamide crosses directly into neural tissue where it triggers oxidative stress and tau protein misfolding, the exact pathology seen in Alzheimer's disease. A Swedish study measuring acrylamide levels in seniors found that those in the highest consumption quartile had 42% increased dementia risk over 15 years. 42% elevated risk from supposedly healthy crackers. Snack number 2, flavored Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt transformed into a health food phenomenon, positioned as high-protein, gut-healthy, the perfect snack. And plain Greek yogurt might actually deliver those benefits. But flavored varieties? They're cognitive poison for aging brains. A standard 6-ounce container of flavored Greek yogurt contains between 16 and 24 grams of added sugar. That's more sugar than a glazed donut. When this sugar load hits an aging digestive system, it triggers rapid glucose absorption, spiking blood sugar to levels that activate advanced glycation end products, appropriately abbreviated AGE. These compounds form when sugar molecules bind to proteins, creating sticky inflammatory complexes that cross-link neurons and prevent normal signaling. The hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, areas essential for memory formation and executive function, show the highest age accumulation. Autopsies of Alzheimer's patients consistently reveal age levels 3 times higher than age-matched controls without dementia. Here's the mechanism most doctors miss entirely. Flavored yogurt also contains artificial flavoring compounds, specifically diacetyl and maltol, which enhance the perception of creaminess and sweetness. Diacetyl, used extensively in strawberry, vanilla, and blueberry-flavored yogurts, crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly inhibits the glyoxylase enzyme system responsible for clearing those toxic age products. So the sugar creates the toxic compounds, and the flavoring prevents the brain from clearing them. It's a 1-2 punch of neurotoxicity packaged as a health food. A study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease tracked dietary patterns and found that seniors consuming flavored yogurt 3 or more times weekly showed accelerated cognitive decline equivalent to being 3.7 years older than their actual age. Snack number 3, rice cakes. Rice cakes represent perhaps the ultimate deception in senior nutrition. They're marketed as low-calorie, simple, clean eating. They're actually one of the highest glycemic index foods available, meaning they spike blood sugar faster and higher than almost any other snack. Plain rice cakes have a glycemic index of 82. For reference, pure glucose is 100. Eating rice cakes is metabolically almost identical to eating straight sugar. When a 65-plus individual consumes a rice cake, blood glucose surges within 10 minutes. This triggers a massive insulin release from the pancreas. In younger people, cells respond appropriately and glucose levels normalize. In aging brains, those hippocampal insulin receptors, already damaged from years of dietary stress, fail to respond properly. Glucose stays elevated longer, bathing neurons in a toxic hyperglycemic environment. The The damage mechanism involves mitochondrial dysfunction. Brain cells require enormous energy, consuming 20% of the body's total oxygen despite representing only 2% of body weight. This energy comes from mitochondria, the cellular power plants. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, mitochondria become overwhelmed, producing excessive reactive oxygen species, essentially internal rust that damages DNA, proteins, and cellular membranes. In the aging brain, mitochondrial repair mechanisms are already compromised. Adding rice cake-induced glucose surges accelerates mitochondrial failure. Neurons begin dying not from disease but from energy starvation. A Columbia University study measuring glucose patterns and brain imaging found that each 10-point increase in average blood glucose correlated with measurable shrinkage in the hippocampus. Rice cakes, despite seeming harmless, deliver exactly this neurotoxic glucose pattern. Now, halfway through this revelation about snacks destroying senior cognition, here's the question. How old are you, and which of these snacks has been a regular part of your diet? Drop your age in the comments. This helps understand who's watching and ensures content stays relevant to the people who need it most. There's no judgment here, only information. Knowing what's been consumed matters less than what gets eliminated starting right now. Snack number 4, dried fruit. Dried fruit occupies a special place in senior nutrition recommendations. It's natural, packed with fiber, contains no artificial ingredients. It's also a concentrated sugar bomb that devastates aging brain metabolism. Here's what the health food industry won't explain. Removing water from fruit concentrates the sugar content by a factor of 4 to 8. A cup of fresh grapes contains 23 grams of sugar. A cup of raisins contains 116 grams. That's 5 times the sugar in identical volume. But it's worse than simple concentration. The drying process also destroys or significantly reduces antioxidant content, particularly vitamin C and polyphenols that protect brain tissue from oxidative damage. So dried fruit delivers massive sugar loads without the protective compounds present in fresh versions. The brain impact is catastrophic. When seniors consume dried fruit, blood sugar spikes within 15 to 20 minutes to levels exceeding 180 milligrams per deciliter, well into diabetic ranges even in non-diabetics. This triggers inflammatory cascades throughout cerebral tissue. Specifically, high glucose activates the NF-kappa B inflammatory pathway in microglial cells, shifting these brain immune cells from protective to destructive mode. Activated microglia release inflammatory cytokines, specifically interleukin-1 beta and tumor necrosis factor alpha, which directly damage synaptic connections. A single glucose spike can trigger microglial activation lasting 6 to 12 hours. Seniors snacking on dried fruit twice daily are maintaining constant neuroinflammation. Research from Rush University's Memory and Aging Project tracked 5,000 seniors over 10 years and found that those consuming dried fruit regularly showed cognitive decline rates 34% faster than those avoiding these concentrated sugar sources. Snack number 5, multigrain toast with honey. This combination represents everything conventional nutrition promotes for seniors. Whole grains for fiber and heart health, honey as a natural sweetener with antioxidants. Together, they create a neurotoxic disaster. The multigrain bread, despite containing multiple grain types, still converts rapidly to glucose. Most commercial multi-grain breads have glycemic indices between 65 and 75, meaning they spike blood sugar nearly as fast as white bread. Adding honey, which is 76 to 82% pure sugar by weight, compounds the problem exponentially. A typical snack of 2 slices of multi-grain toast with 2 tablespoons of honey delivers approximately 45 grams of rapidly absorbed carbohydrates, spiking blood sugar sugar in aging individuals to levels that trigger acute cognitive impairment. But the honey adds a specific additional problem. While raw honey does contain beneficial compounds, most commercially available honey is heated and filtered, removing these protective elements while concentrating the fructose content. Fructose, unlike glucose, doesn't trigger the same insulin response, which sounds beneficial until understanding what actually happens. Fructose bypasses normal glucose regulation and goes straight to the liver for processing. In excessive amounts, it triggers de novo lipogenesis, creating new fat molecules that enter the bloodstream as triglycerides. These lipid particles cross into brain tissue and accumulate in neurons, particularly in the hippocampus and frontal cortex. This lipid accumulation disrupts cellular membranes and impairs synaptic transmission. Autopsy studies of dementia patients consistently show excessive intraneuronal lipid deposits, and dietary fructose is a primary source. A Mayo Clinic study found that seniors consuming high fructose diets defined as more than 25 grams daily, which this single snack exceeds, showed 55% increased progression from mild cognitive impairment to full dementia over 4 years. Snack number 6, Trail Mix. Trail Mix seems perfect for seniors. Nuts provide healthy fats and protein, dried fruit adds natural sweetness, maybe some dark chocolate chips for antioxidants. It's positioned as brain-healthy snacking. The reality is catastrophically different. Commercial trail mix combines the worst elements of multiple neurotoxic snacks into one convenient package. The dried fruit delivers concentrated sugar spikes. The nuts, which could be beneficial, are usually roasted in inflammatory seed oils and coated with sugar or salt. The chocolate chips contain added sugars and often milk powder, creating an inflammatory glycemic nightmare. Here's the specific mechanism destroying memory. Trail mix creates what researchers call glycemic variability, rapid fluctuations in blood sugar that are more damaging than consistently elevated levels. The sugar from dried fruit and chocolate spikes glucose rapidly. The fat from nuts slows gastric emptying, causing a secondary delayed spike 2 to 3 hours later. This roller coaster pattern keeps the brain in a constant state of metabolic stress. Studies using continuous glucose monitors in seniors showed that trail mix consumption created glucose fluctuations exceeding 60 milligrams per deciliter within 2-hour windows. Research published in Diabetologia found that glucose variability, independent of average glucose levels, correlated with accelerated cognitive decline. Each 10-point increase in glycemic variability associated with 15% faster progression of memory impairment. Additionally, most trail mix contains vegetable oils used in roasting nuts. These oils, primarily soybean, canola, and sunflower, are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. In aging brains, excessive omega-6 intake shifts the inflammatory balance. The ideal omega-6 to omega-3 ratio for brain health is approximately 4 to 1. Trail mix consumption pushes this ratio to 20 to 1 or higher, creating a pro-inflammatory state throughout neural tissue. The hippocampus, with its high metabolic rate and dense receptor populations, is particularly vulnerable. Chronic omega-6 excess has been shown to reduce brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the protein essential for forming new neural connections and maintaining existing synapses. Without adequate BDNF, the brain literally cannot form new memories effectively. Now here's what conventional medicine will never admit. They've known about these mechanisms for years. The research isn't new. Studies documenting glucose-induced cognitive decline date back decades. Papers showing inflammatory damage from processed snacks have been published in major journals, but changing recommendations would require acknowledging fundamental errors in dietary guidance. It would mean admitting that the food pyramid, the dietary guidelines, the advice given to millions of seniors was not just incomplete, but actively harmful. Institutional medicine doesn't make those admissions easily. So what's the alternative? If these 6 snacks must be eliminated, what should seniors eat instead? The answer requires understanding what aging brains actually need. After 65, the brain requires stable glucose levels, abundant antioxidants, anti-inflammatory fats, and specific micronutrients supporting mitochondrial function and neurotransmitter synthesis. This translates to specific food choices. Replace crackers with raw vegetables, specifically celery, cucumber, and bell pepper strips. These provide satisfying crunch with virtually no glycemic impact. Replace flavored yogurt with plain, full-fat Greek yogurt, adding fresh berries for natural sweetness. The fat slows sugar absorption from berries, preventing spikes. Replace rice cakes with small portions of nuts, specifically walnuts and pecans, which provide brain-protective omega-3 fats. Replace dried fruit with fresh berries, which deliver antioxidants without concentrated sugar loads. Replace toast with a small serving of avocado, providing monounsaturated fats that stabilize neural membranes. Replace trail mix with homemade versions using raw nuts, unsweetened coconut, and cacao nibs. The transformation happens quickly. Most seniors eliminating these 6 neurotoxic snacks and replacing them with brain-protective alternatives notice cognitive improvements within 2 to 4 weeks. Mental clarity sharpens. Word-finding difficulties decrease. The afternoon brain fog that seemed inevitable starts lifting. This isn't placebo. This is removing a constant source of metabolic stress and allowing neural repair mechanisms to function. But there's a critical implementation point. Changing lifelong eating patterns requires strategy, not willpower. Willpower fails. Ini akins. Strategy succeeds. Here's the specific protocol. Start by eliminating 1 category per week. Week 1, remove all crackers and rice cakes from the house. Don't keep them for guests. Don't hide them in the pantry. Eliminate them completely. Replace with vegetables prepped and ready in the refrigerator. Week 2, eliminate flavored yogurt. Buy only plain varieties. Week 3, remove dried fruit and trail mix. Week 4, stop the toast and honey habit. By implementing gradually, the change feels manageable rather than overwhelming. Additionally, understand that social pressure will emerge. Friends will offer crackers with cheese. Family will bring trail mix on outings. The response needs to be simple and firm. I'm avoiding those for brain health. Mr. Desjardins, no elaborate explanations. No invitations for debate. Just a clear statement of personal health priorities. People respect boundaries when they're stated clearly. Here's a case study demonstrating what's possible. Margaret, 72 years old, came to medical attention after her daughter noticed increasing forgetfulness. Margaret was repeating questions, forgetting appointments, struggling with familiar recipes. Initial cognitive screening showed mild impairment. Reviewing her diet revealed she was consuming rice cakes mid-morning, flavored yogurt after lunch, and trail mix most afternoons. These 3 snacks alone were creating massive glycemic variability and constant neuroinflammation. She eliminated all 3, replacing them with vegetable sticks, plain yogurt with berries, and raw walnuts. Within 6 weeks, her daughter reported the forgetfulness had largely resolved. Follow-up cognitive testing 3 months later showed measurable improvement in memory scores. The brain has remarkable healing capacity when the damaged source is removed. Now, as this information concludes, here's the reality check. Every day these neurotoxic snacks remain in the diet, more synaptic connections are lost. Every blood sugar spike damages more neurons. Every inflammatory surge destroys more cognitive reserve. The choice isn't whether to change. The choice is whether to change now or wait until the damage becomes irreversible. Because there's a point of no return in cognitive decline. Once enough neurons have died, once enough synaptic connections have been lost, the brain cannot recover. The window for intervention is right now, today, before another supposedly harmless snack crosses those lips. If this video provided information that could literally save brain function, if it revealed truths the medical establishment won't discuss, if it offered practical solutions rather than pharmaceutical interventions, do 3 things. Subscribe to ensure access to future content they don't want widely distributed. Share this video with every senior who deserves to know the truth about what they're eating, and implement the changes immediately. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start today, because the brain that depends on these decisions won't wait for convenience. Datim ni and fear almisansing. The truth is simple, even if it contradicts decades of mainstream advice. After 65, the brain cannot tolerate the snacks that worked fine for decades. The metabolism has changed. The protective mechanisms have declined. The margin for error has vanished. 6 seemingly harmless snacks are destroying memory with every bite. Now the information is clear. The choice is yours.